Information to help you run your business better and improve your marketing campaigns. My name is Hank Hoffmeyer, and thank you for joining me on Hank's Marketing and Business Tips. Welcome to episode 307 of the HMBT podcast. Today I'm joined by Benton Newell. She's the founder and CEO of Benton Newell Communications, which offers fractional CMO and COO services. Dana, it's a pleasure to see you. Not like we don't know each other. We live in near the same towns, and then also have served at the American Marketing Association Triangle chapter together.
That's right. That's right. And thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And so, as you said, I am the founder and CEO of Benton Newell Communication. I'm a fractional CMO and a fractional COO. How rare is that, right? And so, one of the cool things about what I do is that I'm able to see things from an operation standpoint before you kind of delve into a very robust marketing strategy. And so the cool thing about that also is that you can hire me to do senior marketing and operations leadership without the overhead of a full-time executive hire. And so one of the things I say about myself is that not only can I help you build your marketing campaign, but I can also look at your systems, your processes, and what your alignments are, across all your spectrums to see what's actually killing growth in your organization. Because it doesn't start as like a big, fire. It starts as a very slow leak. And then once you start to see that, then you start it being in that reactive mode, and then trying to fix things when in fact you should probably try to fix those things before you start a robust marketing strategy. And so what I have done over my 35 years of experience is honestly, Hank, just looking under the hood. I look under the hood. I try to find those bottlenecks that you may not even be looking for. And so, where you may not even think to look. And so, before I start on any marketing strategy, one of the things that I try to do with new clients is I do what I would call an operations readiness test, because I need to see, whether or not your customer journey mapping is actually in place before you start to do a really strong, robust marketing, strategy and plan.
I'm more familiar with the relationship, the good and the bad when it comes to sales and marketing or smarketing, right? Some people call it.
Marketing. I like that. I don't think I've heard that term, but I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Where, sales will blame marketing and marketing will blame sales. Or some companies, they work in harmony and they work beautifully together and bring in new leads, nurture the leads, and create sales, ROI, all those terms that we use as marketers and salespeople. But there is also that relationship in a business between marketing and operations. Let's dive into that a little bit. What are some of the, positive synergies and as well as some of the challenges that you might see between those two different, I guess, departments in an organization?
So what you would see is that they don't talk to each other. And so, marketing tends to operate in a silo, sales tends to operate in a silo, and operations, also operate in a silo. And so whenever I start, even when I was working for another, not as a fractional, but working for other businesses, I never excluded those departments. I always brought those departments together, because what will happen is that you'll have sales doing one thing, marketing doing another thing, operations doing another thing, instead of everybody sort of talking together. So they're operating out of different playbooks. When in fact, look at your playbook. Let's look at your playbook sales. Let's look at your playbook operations and see what synergies there is that we can work together so that what we're doing is making because what happens is what businesses will do, and I have seen this over and over and over again when I have worked, with B2B companies, is that what they don't do is they promise something to their client or their, customer, and they don't live up to that promise. And so, what happens is when you start this, marketing, like I was mentioning before, this strong marketing campaign, you find that systems start to fail. And so, what I try to do is try to see what those, fixes should be before we actually start that marketing campaign and work with sales
Mhm.
on what it is that they're doing as well when they're out, marketing or talking to different, businesses out there and seeing what their customers are looking at too, and then bringing that information back to the marketing team so that we can deliver, a strong marketing strategy that's going to work for operations, but also that's going to work for sales, that's going to work for marketing. So, as I mentioned before, I like to look under the hood. I like to get my hands dirty to see what's actually happening so that we're not in reactive mode and that we're actually fixing issues and problems before they actually start to reveal themselves in a marketing campaign. And what I also mean by that is I actually go through the journey myself. Sometimes I'll get a little sneaky and I'll have somebody else do it, so that they can actually walk through to see what's happening from that first customer touch point until till the
Mhm.
end user is an actual customer. So what happens in between that messy middle is what we're trying to fix.
Right.
Of course, when you first get that customer, you first get that client, everything seems to be working okay. But then when you start to look at customer sentiment, you're looking on Reddit, you're seeing it on Google reviews, you're seeing it on your social profiles. You're starting to see these breakdowns. And what happens is, what do we need to fix first? And sometimes fix these things first. Let's go through the journey first, and then let's also, see what marketing could do to kind of enhance all those great things that you have in your business.
One thing that I think both operations and marketing need to care about is clean data or the right data. And I mentioned that because Kickbox, who I work for, is a strong supporter of this show. And I want to make sure everybody knows that they can get 5,000 free verification credits by using the code HMBT. Just go to kickbox.com, sign up for free account, or you can pay for credits, but you'll get an additional 5,000, or you'll get 5,000 verification credits to help you verify your email addresses. Now, Dana, you were talking about going through the motion. I remember when I was working for a company and the welcome series for, email of signing up for the SaaS platform was live. And it's been that way for a long time and not touched, maybe a little bit of optimization here and there. We hired somebody like you that came in, and first thing they did was go through that process of becoming a customer. And that was so eye-opening, and seeing the screenshots and the videos and everything, and it turned into like a nightmare of saying, oh my God, we don't even do that anymore, or wow, that is so outdated, or that is our old logo on one of the emails and nobody caught it. It's very important to go through that and audit stuff, content, data, all that stuff that you've had around for a while, because it can come back and haunt you. And I'm glad you brought that up, and I appreciate the fact that that's something that you do, because I guess there's a term for it, but you become blind to what happens on the customer side, and you're just worried about, oh, what's our new feature we're going to promote, or what's the next sale we're going to have to get new people on board and get them using the platforms, our service, whether it's consulting or whatever. But we always forget, what is the actual experience of somebody signing up, and will that make them stay? Will that make them leave? Will that make them leave a bad review or something, right?
Right, right. And so, what I say all the time, Hank, is that businesses will do things their way. They're not really asking the customer, they're not asking their employees. And so,
Mhm.
one of the things that I do try to go in and talk to, I actually do try to talk to the employees because they give an eye-opening view, as to what's really going on. We're not looking at 30,000 feet. We're really right here where the customer kind of lives. And so a lot of times I do what I call focus groups, which we all know what that term is. I don't have to get into any details about that. But I spend some time talking to the actual employees. And what they'll tell you is this is broken, that's broken. We do have an old logo out there. nobody's thought about fixing that. We talk to customers or we talk to clients and they tell us what they want from us, but we're not actually producing that. And so, so a lot of the times when I do bring that back up to the senior leaders, I'm saying to them, listen, there's some processes that you have to fix. And guess who knows about these processes that you have to fix? Your own employees. And so spend some time, talking with them and understanding, what it is that needs to be done. And so, you know, here's what I say. I have stopped looking at myself as a traditional B2B marketer. I've started looking at myself as a business strategist because I want to help that business with a rebrand, a product launch, a CRM overhaul, all the customer success programs that are out there that, are full business, turnarounds, all the things that I want to do, but what I definitely will say in the beginning, we need to look at how your whole spectrum of your business functions so that you're not disappointing the very people that you want to buy your
Right.
product or you want to use your service. And because my sweet spot happens to be healthcare, that's one of the, I would say some of the dinosaurs when it comes to marketing because they're so risk averse.
Mhm.
And so, I like, getting into complex environments like, large healthcare system or multi-specialty practice, life sciences or biotech or SaaS or technology, like you had mentioned before. But what I have always found in any of the businesses or any of the industries that I worked with, there's always some relational situation that's connected to marketing and operations, just not spending that time talking to each other so they can fix all the complex issues that are out there. And so, that's one of the things that I like to find where the problem is. Like I said, look under the hood, which nobody cares to kind of do sometimes, and just really see how I can help a business kind of thrive from the operation side and the marketing side. So I'm a
Yeah.
unicorn.
I love it. And I like how you said, make sure you're doing something from the perspective of the customer or their prospective
Customer
customer.
centric, customer
Yeah.
centric. We forget that.
And I used to work with, smaller companies that would have a president or CEO, and they would always say, like, this is the email I want to send out. And I would always say, why would you want to send an email you send out, even though it might be gorgeous, it might have great content in it, but is it valuable and is it going to be great to your subscribers? You need to find out what they need, want, and will engage with. And that is what will make your email campaigns successful. And they slowly would understand that. But there's still people out there that will say, we need to do this because I think it's the best thing to do, or I think it's great. And you need to put yourself into the perspective of your potential buyer, your ICP, right? Your ideal client
Right.
persona. And I don't think enough companies go through that. And they should work with you to develop that if they don't have it.
Well, a lot of CEOs, and when I talk to CEOs and I talk to founders, I say, listen, put yourself in a business that you wanted to interact with. Put yourself in a situation where you were actually buying something. What happened? What happened? And so, what I say is take yourself out of this situation and look at it from a holistic standpoint and say, what would my customer want from me so that they will stay with me long term, right? So when I work with founders, of course, their whole thing is lead gen, right? Lead gen, lead gen, lead gen, or go to market, go to market, go to market. And so, what I also try to explain to them that all of those things are very important, but you also want to have sustainability, right? You don't want the one and done, right? You want sustainability over the long term. And so, what that means is adding value. What value are you offering to that particular clientele or customer, that's going to keep them coming back? That's why successful companies like Patagonia and Nike and Apple, and I know these are big businesses, and Disney, right? And so I know these are big businesses, but there's a formula, that they have, that I think all businesses can, even me, I put myself in that position too, that, all we can all strive to say what customer centric programs, services, products am I offering that's going to make somebody stay with me long term so that, there's brand loyalty, and it's like I love an Apple product, right? I'm an Apple geek. So I'm talking to you on my Apple, laptop, and I have a desktop, and I have an Apple phone, and I have Apple EarPods, and all the things, right? What makes me want that? Because Apple is offering something of value that I do care about, and I'm a long-term brand loyalist to Apple. Make your customer base a brand loyalist to you. What's going to make them keep coming back, to keep buying,
Mhm.
to keep using your services, to keep, you at the forefront of, like you said, of the like situation, on your social profiles, or if there's a Reddit, that they're talking about you in Reddit.
Mhm.
What's the customer sentiment out there that's going to make them say, you need to look at this particular brand. You need to
Right.
look at this particular product. You need to look at this particular, service because, they offer great customer, service. They offer great, product. I find it of value to me. It's going to be of value to you. And so the best form, right, of marketing, which we know, is those who talk about your service or your product and get others to like it too,
Mhm.
instead of you having to spend so much on marketing and, advertising, and all the things that we would do, from a marketing strategy standpoint. Getting people out there to talk about you on social is a big, 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 big deal.
And it's great when you have people talking about you in a positive fashion. And Apple has haters. There's going to be
Yeah,
people
there's Apple
that,
haters. Don't
yeah.
don't come back at me.
And there will be people that have a bad experience and they'll post about it, but it's how
Right.
you handle those. And, some of the greatest bits of advice I've ever heard and gave is, replying to those reviews, those Reddit threads, and don't necessarily agree with them, but point out the fact that if there was an issue that you understand, or you won't let it happen again, or you'll use it to make things better, but don't argue with someone, right? A lot of like restaurant owners, they always argue with people in the reviews and in the comments rather than saying, hey, I'm sorry you had a bad meal. Well, we're going to work on making that experience better. We want to invite you back to try it again. Please do so.
Right, right. And I think that's the point that's missed. And so I know in marketing, it's all about clicks and leads. But it's what happens, in the bathroom, what happens in the operations side of things, and how do you fix those things, in your back, like you had a bad meal,
Mhm.
something happened, like you mentioned, in a restaurant, situation, but it also happens in a business as
Yeah.
well. In all the businesses that I work with, something happens that causes that person to say something that's not, very favorable to you. And so one of the things that I used to do also, Hank, is I used to work for, a top five PR firm. And some of the clients that we had were some pretty high level and high, stakes pharmaceutical companies, some of them number one, two, and three in the world. And, when there was a crisis that happened, we would say, own up to it. Don't hide behind it. Don't argue about it.
Right.
Let's put a crisis communication plan together where those who really like your brand and who like, what you do, will eventually they'll forgive you for it, and so let's work together so that whatever bottleneck and whatever problems are going on from an operation standpoint, fix it and then go out and own it and say, yes, we messed up. We did not do things the right way. We are going to fix this issue. We promise that, we'll come back. We'll make sure that all things are working the way they're supposed to.
Mhm.
And then don't hide from it, and certainly don't argue. And I would say that with any small business, if you see sentiment out there on a Reddit thread, if your social team is following all the trends that are happening on your social profiles and your Reddit trends and all the other things, also take a strong look at your Google reviews, which a lot of people forget. they leave that alone and they don't actually look at those things. And I'm like, no, you got to look at your Google reviews to see,
Hmm.
because guess what? People are, typing in something, something, what business can I, whatever it is, what widget do I need, and what business can provide that for me. And if your Google reviews are not good, then they will not entertain you. They'll go to the next person. And so I remember I was working with a particular client with it, and they knew it. They said, our Google reviews are not great. We need to fix that. And we need you to come in and help us fix that. So I took a look at the reviews, and it was all operations in its scope.
Mm, interesting.
So I said, okay, we've got to fix a lot of these operational issues. And I bet you in 6 to 8 months, your Google reviews will increase. And so it went from a 2.7 to a 4.5 in 6 months, because we fixed the operational
Right.
issues. And then we went in with a strong, robust go-to-market strategy, because they were losing, hemorrhaging as far as, clients are concerned.
Hmm.
And then, we really did a sustainable program that will keep people, happy, and, just change the entire infrastructure around. They had to get rid of some people that were not going to help that particular business thrive. And so sometimes it's also your people operations too, Hank. It's not just all systems.
Right.
Sometimes those systems also mean people, and sometimes those people may not need to be there to help your business thrive too. So it's a difficult thing to, to try to navigate.
Hmm.
But when you're working together, you see less churn, you see increased revenue, you start to see increased sentiment, and so it makes a big difference.
And I think it's very timely to bring up Google reviews because they just recently made a policy change.
Yeah,
More importantly, for service-based industries, right? For calling out employees by name in reviews, because I think
yeah,
companies started rewarding employees by saying, "Hey, whoever gets the most reviews this month gets an extra bonus in your paycheck," to kind of coerce customers to leave those reviews. And be careful because they're going to start penalizing you for doing that. And I actually spoke to someone the other day when I went through a friend of mine who owns a service company. I noticed that his name was being mentioned, and he said, "I don't say my name or anything. They just do it." And I was like, "Just be careful. Try not to say it, even though they are doing it. Google
right.
may think that you're trying to push people." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know that." But
Yeah.
that's always an interesting change, and hopefully nobody will get caught up in that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about, social, is that a lot of people are, their names are being called out, or the business is, sometimes the business name, which is always going to be, the thing that's called out. I tell people all the time that, it's rare that somebody will put a positive review, but if you mess over somebody or things don't go well, you know, somebody will always put a negative review. I mean,
Hmm.
because they're mad, they're angry, they're not satisfied with the customer
Yeah.
journey that you've, started with them. Somewhere along the line, something broke down and it did not continue on to that positive path that you wanted it to. And so therefore they take it out, as I call keyboard warriors. They'll take it out on socials. And guess who sees that?
Hmm.
Loads and loads of people. Lots of people will see that. And so what you want to do is you can't avoid everything, and I don't want to sit here and say, well, it's all pie in the sky, because, if it took that long to break it, it's going to take a while to fix it. And so you're going to see, but you're going to need the time to do it, and to, fix those things that, so that you start to see less, you start to see more positive, interactions on your social profiles, out there. And so that those who are going to look will say, okay, well, looks like they fixed the problem. I'm starting to see more positive reviews, because guess what? Those Google reviews don't go away. They really don't. They stay there. And so what you have to do, like we were saying before, is to try to turn that around And so that's what, I try to work with companies, not just that, but I'm just bringing that up as an example of trying to, turn those Google reviews, because of this one company that I mentioned before, that was one of their biggest goals is they wanted more positive reviews on Google reviews, and we were able to achieve that for them.
I don't remember the stat, but it mentioned like it was a high stat, high percentage of people that have bad reviews will leave, negative reviews versus the people that have, I guess you just call it like if they just had a good service, they're not really incentivized to go and put a review. If they had great service or had a great experience, yeah, they'll probably go. But the average person is not going to go and leave a positive review, even if it was positive. But negative,
Right.
I think it was like 70 something percent of
It's
people that
high.
have a negative experience post
Yeah,
a bad review, which
they
is
will.
staggering.
It's very staggering. And the other thing is too, is that what you want to do is ask. If you have ambassadors out there that really love your product, that really love your service, that really love what it is that you do and you're providing for them, ask them to leave,
Mhm.
a positive review on your social profiles. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
And a lot of times, if you just do the simple ask, hey, how was our service for you today? Did you like the product that you received? Did you use it? What happened with it? Would you mind leaving, if we gave you a 5 star, you got a 5 star experience, would you mind leaving a 5 star for us? And chances are, if you just ask, they'll do it because they
Mhm.
want to be, if especially if they're brand loyalists and are striving to be a brand loyalist, they want to be able to help your business grow too. And so if you're providing value to that particular clientele or customer, they want to help. They want to encourage others to buy, or to use your services. And so I tell them that just ask them. They'll do it.
Do you remember the days where you can actually have a link to like the review section and then or a QR code, however, whatever it was a link, right? But it would default to 5 stars and then had the box. Then
Right.
I don't know how many years that worked, but then they removed it so that you can't like default to 5 stars.
Right, right. You have to put it in. One, two, you
Yeah,
have to put those things in.
but that
And,
worked for years.
yes, and you know what I do too when I work with clients and I see a positive review, whether it's on social or Reddit or Google reviews, I send it to their operations team.
Hmm.
I'm like, look what you're doing. Hey, look what people are saying. That's just not marketing. That means the entirety of the team. That
Yep.
means everybody's working together. We're not working in silos anymore. And guess what? They're happy, and they're talking about it. And so, so I send it to the entire team, not just marketing. I send it to the entire team so they can see and like, okay, we're doing something good here.
What would you say is the biggest item of friction you see between the marketing and the operations teams when you go in and say there is an issue that you're trying to work out and make things work better? What is the biggest source of friction?
So I think the biggest source of friction is just trying to get the others trying to change the other, right? Well, we're doing this, so you need to market this way, okay? And then marketing, well, no, we're marketing this way, so you need to fix this. And so I think it's just really just coming to a systems issue that might be breaking down. If there's a call center's, problem, that's going on, or appointment scheduling, or anything that's a fulfillment issue that's happening. A lot of times operations will get very sensitive about it because, marketing will come and say, we're finding these, we're out there. The sales team is telling us, our customers are not getting what they're supposed to be getting. And, we're seeing some problems here, with fulfillment issues or a system breakdown or a call's not going through or somebody's not making that appointment. I think, you know, they're not good at playing in the sandbox together. And so marketing will say, this is what I'm hearing. Sales and marketing are saying, this is what we're hearing. Operations, what are you doing to fix it? Or operations is saying, look, we got this great product, we've got this great service, we've got all these great things that we're doing. You're not marketing it enough.
Mhm.
You're not sharing the information enough. So I think that's the biggest friction that I see. It's like
Mhm.
everybody's not really talking to each other, or they're talking at each other. And so instead of doing that, bringing everybody in the room and saying, hey, We've got this great service. We got this great product. We've got this, all these great things that we're doing in our business. How are we going to market that? How are we going to, okay, marketer, how are we going to do that? And in operations, hey, we're seeing some issues. We're seeing some things going on. What are you going to do to fix those things so that we have a great customer, a great customer journey mapping situation so that we're comfortable, talking about it on, from a marketing strategy standpoint. Let's work together to do that instead of working in silos.
Right. When I
Yeah,
was at Eye Contact, we used to have a monthly meeting, and it was called Voice of the Customer. And
that's important.
the leadership team from the support team would bring in whether it was support cases, feedback, phone calls, transcripts. We would review certain items that they handpicked to go over, whether it was a praise or whether it was criticism, and we would discuss it, talk about it, praise each other or whatever teams that were involved, if it was good. And if it was a challenge, we'd iron it through and say, do we need to make a change, whether it's on the services side,
Right.
the support side? That was great. And I think all companies should be doing that.
Yes, they should. And, one of the things that, I will end with, saying partly is that build systems before you need them. Build them before you need them. Look at your entire, operations infrastructure and say, if I put myself as a customer in this business, what would I see? What would happen? Most small businesses, they actually do things
Yeah.
reactively. They do things reactively. I'm saying to you, small business, I'm saying to you, business, look under the hood, have somebody from a different perspective, come in and actually walk through your operations infrastructure, you know, because you don't want to become overwhelmed, because the operation wasn't able to handle the volume once you start a marketing strategy. Take a look at your entirety of your customer journey map and see, okay, what happened? But maybe you not do it, have somebody else do it that's not directly related to your business and see what happens in that messy middle part,
Right.
right? And so, like you were saying before, Hank, is that you would get those transcripts, you would get all the information. You maybe a distributor might have given you some information, maybe a salesperson might have given you some information, maybe the marketing team gave you some information, maybe the call center gave you some information, maybe the patients, our customers themselves gave you some information. What are you doing with that information? What are you doing with it? What things, what processes are you changing? And that goes for marketing and operations. Marketing may not be doing everything that's also of value to that customer. Maybe the wrong marketing messaging is also not right.
Hmm.
Scrap it, do it over, see what's of value that's going to resonate with your particular client base so that they have a positive experience. They're happy, and
Right.
so to speak. You're always going to have unhappy,
Right.
clients and customers, but try to minimize that as much as you can.
For everybody out there that does not have the Dana the Unicorn budget, you could probably use like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and say, "Hey, this is my industry. This is what I have in place. What are some things that others in my industry might experience when it comes to customer service issues that I need to think about ahead of time?" Right? Because you were talking about think ahead and have processes in place. Use AI to help you brainstorm those ideas. And then if you
Exactly.
really want to get stellar and great and just shave time, just hire you.
Right. Just hire, and I know that sounds very flippant, right? Just hire a unicorn like Dana. But it's so true because one of the things, and you and I both know, you and I have talked about this in previous discussions, is that because we went to Chicago
Hmm.
together as an AMA group, and we were sitting in a couple of AI classes that we were a part of. One thing that I will say, I love AI, you love AI, and all of those things, but nothing I think takes the place of just human ingenuity.
Hmm.
Talk to the people that work for you, talk to your customers, see what's of value to them. There's nothing like just having conversations, human conversations. Yes, I agree with you, Hank. AI can actually peek and see what, problems that you may have. Okay, this is my entire operations infrastructure. Here's my marketing, plan that I'm thinking about doing. Here's some, be honest. Put in some of the bottlenecks, put in some of
Mhm.
the issues that you're having. How can I fix this? I will guarantee you that if you ask Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude Cowork, if you ask, Notebook, if you ask any of those, any of them, they'll probably ask you to talk to your own,
Yeah.
people that's within your organization. And sometimes it might just also be not just sales, but the people who are working for you. It could be distributors. It could be a whole host of people that will, give you information. It's the information that you receive is what you do with it once you have it. And that's one of the things that I put together in a playbook. I actually did a seminar very similar to this, Hank, with the North Carolina Biotechnology Center, which I know you know well. And I gave a whole, hour long, informational session on how operations and marketing intersect. And then I gave them a 5-step playbook. I don't remember all the steps right now, but I did give them a 5-step playbook of how you can use your business, to break out of those silos and, put those things together that's going to help you add value to your customer base.
Well, this has been a great conversation. So now we have smarketing. Now I think we have marperations.
You're right, right. Markerations. I like that.
I
I
think
think
we
I'm
just
gonna use
coined
that.
that term.
As long
So
as I can
Dana,
explain it.
how can people find you, learn more about what you do, and connect with you?
So how you can connect with me is Benton Newell Communications. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can also find me by Dana at BENNEWCOMM, Mary.com. So I know it's a long, drawn out email, but Dana at bennewcom.com. And then if you go on my LinkedIn, you will find my phone number and all my contact information. And then you can also, bennewcom.com is also my email, my website as well.
All right. Links in the show notes, folks, for all of those letters you just spelled out. They'll be there so you can just click on them. And don't forget, if you want 5,000 email verification credits, which you should be doing, whether you're cleaning a list, doing it one at a time via the API, or just want to check one email address, you can use that code HMBT at kickbox.com. Dana, it was a pleasure having you, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Hank, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right, let's get those Marperations together, folks. See you next
Mark,
time.
I love it. Markerations. Take care.